Hello, my name is Presley Giles, and welcome to PVI4U.org, Priority Value Investments, and we present Forward. I'm hoping that some of you have been watching a little bit and been able to see a little bit about what we do here and what our objectives are. We're a nonprofit organization, and basically our main objective is to get funding for a veterans community that we want to do, and we're talking about not just for single homes. We're talking about family type homes that we want to be able to do. That's our overall objective. And Forward is sort of the fundraising campaign for Priority Value Investments, which is the real estate organization. And Forward is basically about how sometimes you make mistakes in life, or things affect you in life that may or may not be your fault one way or the other, but still yet it's important because that you find a way to get past it and move forward in life. And that's what we're here for. That's what we're about. So that's what we're going to do. Now today, that my business partner in this, Mike James, he's in the military, and that's basically how this whole thing got started. We wanted to do something to help out people who were looking for homes in the military. That was basically our first objective. But then what I wanted to do is talk a little bit about military life. Now, I've never been in the military, although my father was in the military. My natural father was in the military for many years. He was a career Army man. He fought in Korea, and and he's sort of a hero. People have done newspaper articles on him and interviews on him about his life and things that he's done in the military. Then my stepfather, who is also in the military, he was in the Air Force, but he started out in the Army, and then when the Air Force was developed and so forth, he moved over into the Air Force, and so he fought in, I think it was 3 or 4 different wars from that he was involved with. So I do have somewhat of a military family background, I guess you'd say. Now, what I wanted to talk to you about today is sort of important because I don't have anything prepared specifically for that, but I did want to talk about it, and that's domestic violence. And I'm not saying that it has anything to do with anyone being in the military or being a veteran or anything like that. It happens in all homes, throughout the country. And, since the whole COVID thing and people staying at home, military violence went up so much, the numbers went up much, much higher. And in that, we have the children. And that's what I want to talk to you about today, is the children, how it impacts them. Now, when I was a kid, I was basically raised from the time I was born up until I was 7 or 8 years old, I think it was, that I lived with my grandparents, and they were deeply religious, and we went to church 7 days a week, If there was a church event, we were there. And so and things were just different. But then when I got about 8 years old, my parents, my stepfather retired from the military, and they decided they were going to live in our hometown of Yoakum, Texas. And they moved there, a little small town of a little over 5,000 people. And so I was sitting on my porch, my grandparents' porch one day, and this big truck drives up with this green and white trailer behind it. And, and I'm sitting on the porch and I'm like wondering what's all this about. My grandmother and my grandfather come out and they talk to the driver and so forth and so on. And then maybe maybe a few days later, my my parents, my mother, my mom, and my stepdad, my real mom and my stepdad, came and they were going to move back to Yoakum, and that was going to be my stepdad's retirement home. Um, and so after a while, things, when I got used to it, I went over to go over and stay with my mom, some days, for a few days, and then I'd go back to my grandmother's and so forth and so on until I kind of got used to it. And then eventually, I basically moved in with my dad and my stepdad and my mom. And one of the interesting things about that, though, I remember is there was this one shirt, my favorite shirt in the whole wide world. I remember I used to wear it to the movies and stuff like that, and sometimes to church. And that one shirt, I chose to keep that one shirt at my grandparents' house. Why? I don't know. I don't know what I was thinking about, but that's what I chose to do. And I've always thought about that. I still remember that shirt as clear as day right now. But anyways, so eventually I moved in with my with my with my mom and my stepdad. And things were good. Things were great. If there's anything that I wanted, I got it. I got a new bike. I got toys. I got whatever I wanted to eat. Oh my God, the life was great. And I was loving it. And then my stepdad, if it was something that I wanted, if my mom said, no, you can't have that, my stepdad, I go talk to my stepdad and I got it. I don't care what it was. I got it. I had all of the space toys, from back then, and everything, and trains. I think I had a train. They were spoiling me rotten. Things my grandparents wouldn't even consider. But so anyway, I had moved in with them and things were going good. And there was this one street that my grandparents, when I was with my grandparents, that I was not supposed to even look at there in the city of Yoakum. It was Front Street. I wasn't supposed to even look at it. I'm not even thinking about being up there or even, when I got to that street, basically I was supposed to run home fast as I could. I didn't understand the whole thing at the time, but all I knew is I wasn't supposed to be on that street and let my grandparents, my grandmother or my grandfather catch me in that area. And so, but one night, while I was now living with my parents, my mom and my stepdad, they took me to the bars with them. They took me to the beer taverns with them. And it was great. Again, the same thing. I had all the soda pop, all the candy, all the cookies, all of the pickles, all of the that I wanted. I had everything that I wanted. And then here's the fun part about it is that I like to dance. I love to dance and everything, and at home when I was with my grandparents and everything, it'd be fun. And with my aunts and uncles and so forth, my teenage aunts and uncles, and listen to great music. And so here all of a sudden I was in this beer tavern and they had a dance floor. And so I got a chance to get out on the dance floor by myself and show off my moves. I showed off my James Brown. I did the slide across the floor. The adults started throwing out coins and money to me, just throwing out money out there on the floor just to watch and see me dance. And I thought, wow, this is great, man. I love this, And so after I did my thing, I did several dances and I got all kind of money. I had a pocket full of money. I was able to buy all the goods I wanted, all the candies and crap that I really didn't need. But I had my own money and I could buy it. And so, but while I was having fun, something took place between my mom and my stepdad. An argument broke out, and all I know is all of a sudden in the place where they were sitting, there was yelling and screaming and everything like that. And my mom took the keys to the car, and she and I went home to the little green and white mobile home. And when we got there, my mom, we walked around the house, and my mom was not a touchy feely kind of person. That just, I didn't. It wasn't. That is just, we didn't, even she and I, we didn't know each other that well. And neither one of us were that type of, she wasn't that huggy, cuddly type mom. It just wasn't the kind of person she was, and neither was I. Even at that early age, I wasn't brought up that way. And so anyhow, so we were in the house, my mom and myself, and she was holding me by the hand. And we kind of walked around for a while, and she was talking to herself. And I didn't understand, where she was going. I didn't know if she was talking to me or if she was just really just talking to herself. But I guess I just realized she was really just speaking to herself. And she was puffing on a cigarette and everything. But she kept holding my hand. And so finally she sat down on the couch and I sit down beside her, and she still continued to hold my hand. And then, she got up all of a sudden, and she goes outside the little green and white mobile home and picks up a brick. And she comes back in the house with the brick, and she catches me by the hand again. And then she takes the brick, and with the brick in one hand and me in the other hand, and we go from room to room in that little green and white mobile home, and we broke out every single window, all the windows in the house. So we just went from room to room, all the windows and all the light bulbs. She'd take the shade out the light bulb and just knock the bulb out. And all this whole time where she's going to each bedroom, each living room, the kitchen, everywhere, you could think of. She and I just went around until it was just totally dark in the house, and it was dark in there, and we couldn't see or anything like that, but she still had me by the hand. And then eventually, she would just sit there, puff a cigarette, and talk to herself. And I didn't understand. And so eventually, she sent me off to bed. She sent me off to bed, keeping in mind there was no lights. It was dark. There was glass all over the floor, including in my bedroom. I had to go to my bedroom with no lights, and the glass on the floor, and everything. And so I went to bed, and then I guess somewhere in the middle of the night, I was waking up by these loud curses and screams and it seemed like body falls and things being knocked over and all this kind of stuff. And so I got up and I kind of tiptoed into the kitchen area, and I could see them in there in the dark fighting with each other, And I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how do I handle this? What am I supposed to do to help this? So how am I supposed to stop them? And I remember thinking, I never saw my grandparents do this. They would argue, but I've never seen them do this. I was like, what am I supposed to do? And I just stood there. I just remember just standing there watching them doing this. And not knowing how to stop them, or not knowing how to do anything. And so eventually I just basically went back to my room and I fell asleep. And then the next morning when I woke up, I could hear them in the kitchen area talking. My bedroom was right next to the kitchen area. And so I could hear them in the kitchen area talking. So I got up, I got dressed, put some shoes on because there's still glass all over the floor, and walked into the kitchen area, and my mom was in there, and they were laughing and talking, acting like nothing had ever happened. It was confusing as heck to me. I didn't get it. I didn't understand. I thought you were mad at each other. I thought you hated each other. But they're laughing and talking and everything, and I didn't understand. And my mom was cooking breakfast, and I remember she had a black eye, and then one side of her face was swollen, and my dad was sitting at the kitchen table, and he had his foot up on the chair, on another chair, and he had a big old rag around his foot where he had cut himself on some glass, and they were just laughing and talking like this was normal. You know, my mom asked me, "Well, hey, what'd you say? What do you want? You want one egg or two?" I'm saying, two, and I just, I'm just, this was just like the beginning. What was I supposed to do? And it would happen almost every weekend. Almost every weekend that there was this fight and this nasty knockdown, drag out fight, and then you're told whatever happens in this house, you keep it in this house. You don't let it go outside of this house. You don't go back and tell your grandma or your grandpa what's going on in this house. I was told that several times, and so I remember one time, I'll never forget this. This was like Sunday, just because it was early. It was like in the afternoon or something like this, and they were fighting, and I was outside riding my bike. And my mom, I remember they were fighting inside the house, and I was outside riding the bike, and they were at the door. My mom was at the door, and she was holding onto the frame of the door. And I remember she had on this aqua colored dress. I still remember that clear as day. And my stepdad was kicking her in the chest, kicking her. And I'm like, whoa, and I just remember that my it's like my mind left my body, and I was like half a block up the street, and I could see them in their door fighting, but I could also see myself on the bike riding around in the yard, and that kind of like became my way of kind of dealing with all that stuff, it was just, sometimes it was just too much to handle. It was too much to put on any child. It's too much to put on any child to have that kind of pressure, and then it's like you're supposed to act as though things that happen, between your mom and your dad, that's grown folk stuff. That has nothing to do with you. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Because it's like when you grow up, it affects how you live your life. And it's like it became a long time before I even wanted anything to do with love, because if that's what love meant was fighting and fighting with each other, beating the crap out of somebody, to get them to love you the way you want them to love you. If you got to beat the crap out of them to get them to love you, heck, that's not love. They're not loving you because they love you. They're loving you because they don't want you to beat the crap out of them. And if it means that you got to take a beating from somebody to show you love them, then hell, I can do without that. There's no materialistic thing about it. My mother told me one time, everything I do, everything I put up with you. But please don't do that for me. Please do not do that for me, because it hurts. It hurts me to see you in that position. I remember one time they were fighting, and this was, it must have been about 10, maybe 11 years old, something. I was a little bit older than I was, of course, when I first moved in. It was a few years later. And they were fighting, and for some reason I was there, and I was trying to stop them, and my dad accidentally hit me right in the face. He hit me right there, and I still got that mark right now to this very day, right there in my face, and he and it, I don't. It didn't even stop him. It didn't stop him. And then I remember my mom afterwards. She gave me a whipping for getting involved with grown folk stuff. You don't get involved with grown folks stuff. You stay where it is. It's none of your business. You stay. I'm like, I have to live in this house with you. You telling me this is where I have to live, that I have to live under this, and I have to see this. I have to see my mom get beat. I have to see my stepdad, who in many ways was a very, and it sounds odd to say it, but was a very good man. It's like, you ever see the movie Crash? I don't know if you've ever seen that movie or not, but it's a movie that's important to me because it shows that everybody has this level. Everybody has this level of what's of good and evil within them. You know, they have this level of good and bad, all within the one person. At one time, in one area of your life, you know, you're good. Maybe you're doing wonderful things for people. You're going out of your way for people. And then in the next area, you're cheating them out of something, or you're beating them, or to prove that you love them, or something stupid like that. But there's this range that I truly believe that people have, that all human beings have, that's between good and evil, between good and bad. We all have it. I have it. I'm more than willing to admit that I'm not a perfect person. I'm not. You know, I have this thing there that in one area I'm good. My heart is pure in one place, and I want to go above and beyond for one people. But at another time, you know, I'm not perfect. You know, and I think the sooner that, and I'm going to say this, and maybe it's wrong to say it, but the sooner that I think we realize that we and accept the fact that we're not perfect. And I don't care. And people can talk about, well, if you go to church, you know, every day, you know, you're going to be pure, and that's not true either. But because it's just a human being thing. It's not anything against religion or the church or anything like that. It's just you're still human. And so that's the way I learned to accept my father, my stepfather, you know, is that in all that goodness and everything there was this one part of him with that relationship with my mother. I don't know what his relationship was like with his mother and everything. But that was just, it was just awful. When I was 18, I got a little brother. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about him a little later at another time. I got a little brother when I was 18, and I was about to move out. I was ready to get out of the house. I was more than ready to get out of that house. I was like, I could not wait to get out of that house. And so but then my little brother came along and everything like that. And the same practice was still going on between my mom and my stepdad, the physical fighting in public. Keep in mind, they could be in public. No, at the beer tavern, whatever, they had no problem with fighting with each other in public, you know? And so I talked to them about, you know, trying to not do that in front of my little brother and everything. But unfortunately, as they say, this is their business. And so it continued. And he, too, went through the whole thing of the violence, and we would talk about it. We still talk about it today. He's a grown man. And we talk about the violence that took place in the home and how it impacted us and relationships and so forth. And my brother right now, he's serving life in prison because of violence. You know, violent acts, you know, and because he didn't know how to deal with relationships. He didn't know how to deal with how to treat a woman, you know. He didn't know how to do that because he thinks that, you know, somehow violence is going to is going to make someone love you or whatever. He had to learn that, and you know, and it eventually, you know, he got caught with that stuff, and he got caught with that violence and that way of life. You know, it impacts you a great deal. It impacts that child that's going through that, and so all I can ask you is to just please be aware of what you say and what you do in front of your children. And don't just say it's none of your business. Say it's none of your, you know, it has nothing to do with you, because it does. If they're looking at it and they're observing what you're doing, what you're saying, the way you speak to your spouse, you know, they're listening to that. They're really listening to that. And even though they can't explain it, they can't sit down and talk to you about it, you know, and discuss it with you in detail. It's in their minds, you know. How do they fit in? Where do they? Are you mad at it? Because I just think, well, maybe if I wasn't here, you know, a lot of that stuff wouldn't happen. Maybe if I went back to my grandparents or whatever, you know, maybe. But then I think it was one of my uncles told me, you know, it had nothing. It didn't have anything to do with you. You can be there, you could not be there. They're still going to do that, you know. And so. And my grandparents, you know, they knew what was going on, you know, and it was just such a heavy thing to have to go through and have to live with, and have to think that it has something to do with you when it has absolutely positively nothing to do with you. You know, it has nothing to do with you. These are two grown people, and I eventually had to tell that to my brother. I had to tell him that, you know, these are you, because my brother used to think that, well, he could fix it. You know, if he could get them to laugh and laugh it off and everything like that, and everything, and it that they wouldn't fight. That didn't work, because I don't know. Maybe you could say that's the way they chose to love each other, but. My whole thing is being able to choose how we move forward, how we move past that. How do we get past when you're brought up in that way? You know, my brother, like I said, you know, it took him going to prison to kind of like begin to understand what was happening. With me, it took me years and years and years of therapy, of seeing a counselor, to deal with that and a few other issues, you know, that I was dealing with. It took me a long time to get to this point, you know, and so that was my way of moving forward, of getting past that type of thing in life, you know. But all I can do is just ask the parents, you know, be aware of what you're doing and what you're saying. You know, when a mother says something negative about the father in front of the child, that has an impact. When the father says something negative about the mother in front of the child, that has an impact. It does, you know, and it's like it's a very hard thing to deal with, and we try and deal with it as best we can, and you know, and since the whole COVID thing, I was watching television, and you know, and it seemed like during the whole COVID period, is all this domestic violence that was going on, and fightings in the homes, and abuse, and even murders. You know, all I can do is ask you, just be careful what you're saying and what you're doing in front of your children. All I can do is ask you. You know, I'm going to start wrapping this up a little bit. It's going to be kind of a short one here today. But I want to tell you that, you know, Priority Value, pviforyou.org. You know, our whole objective is that at some point we want to be able to build homes for veterans, and We need your support. There's several areas where we're a nonprofit organization. We need board members, people who can really come in and make an impact on the organization. We need grant writers. If you can come in, if you can write a grant, you can help us with that. Fundraisers, to help well with this show. We need to be able to keep this program going every week, and so we need funding for that. And I'm hoping that we're asking you to do whatever you can do to keep us going. And if you're if you can, or an adult person dealing with having memories or dealing with a past of domestic violence in your home between your parents or whatever, if you're dealing with something like that, there's a place where you can go. I'm going to give you a number here. I want you to go to the National Domestic Violence Hotline. You can call them if you're dealing with something like that. That number is, I'm going to give it to you now, so get ready, get your pen and pencil ready, or when you get a chance, text it out. It's, again, the National Domestic Violence Hotline, and it deals with, between husband and wife, and includes children, if that's happening, if that's going on. That number is 1-800. Make sure I put my glasses on. Make sure we get it right. 799-7233. Again, the National Domestic Violence Hotline is 1-800-799-7233. 800-799-7233. And if you need to give them a call, please give them a call. Don't wait until things get so bad that, you do something crazy or do something stupid. If you're feeling that way, give them a call, and hopefully, we can be resolved. Okay? So we're going to wrap this up today. If you can go to our hotline, go to our website, pvi4u.org. You can go to that website, and hopefully I'm going to see if I can post some information on there regarding this subject, where you can be able to go and get that number and get help also that you need. All right. So we're gonna wrap this puppy up, and I say thank you for listening, and I hope I didn't scare anybody off. I'm hoping I didn't scare anybody off, but it's something that it's important to me, and it's not just people who are in the military or veterans. It happens in all homes, and I don't care if rich or poor, black, white, Hispanic, Asian. It happens. You got two different minds that somehow conflict or see things in a different way, and sometimes that results in violence. And so, anyway, I'm going to say goodbye. I'm going to hold this up here in a few minutes, and I want to say thank you for listening. Thank you for viewing, and we'll see you hopefully next week.